Shalom, this is Parathon of the Great Millstone Houston Camp, back with another lesson to edify the elect of the nation of Israel. So before I begin, I want to give all praises and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rechakwadash. Yahweh is whom the world ignorantly called God, Ba'ashem is in the name, Rechakwadash is whom the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, Ba'ashem is in the name, Rechakwadash is the Holy Spirit. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone who rule well. Peace, blessing, and salutation unto the elect of the nation of Israel. The Israelites consist of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and all the Israelites that scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, which according to our bloodline goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. We are the Most High chosen people. So in this lesson, I want to go into justice. All right. And real quick, I just thought about the saying that our people say. They pretty much cry and beg to the enemy for justice, no peace. All right. This. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace is a political slogan which originated during the protest against acts of ethnic violence against African Americans. Its precise meaning is contested. The slogan was used as early as 1986 following the killing of Michael Griffith by a mob of white youth. All right, so this is a cry to the judicial system, okay, from so-called African Americans which would be majority of the Judites, okay, the tribe of Judah from the southern kingdom. All right. And the slogan came about from ethnic violence against the African Americans. And this slogan is still used today. All right. This started in 1986. Okay, so it shows that the violence against so-called African Americans never stopped. And in 1986, that wasn't the beginning of it, neither. Okay. You had the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. All these years of serving hardcore, okay, captivity, and no justice has been served. All right. So what I want to do is look up this word justice. Okay. Let me go back. Justice, the noun, mid 12th century. The exercise of authority in vindication of right by assigning reward or punishment. Okay. Also, quality of being fair, just, moral soundness, and conformity to truth. Okay. Justice, legal rights. Okay. Jurisdiction. Okay, let's look up this word, jurisdiction. Jurisdiction. Practical authority granted to a formally constituted legal body or to a political leader to deal with legal matters. Okay, shows jurisdiction, practical authority granted to a formally consistent legal body or to political leader to deal with legal, okay, matters. All right, so from Latin is all right, I can't read that word, but it looks like it's stetia, righteousness, equity, from istus, upright, just. Okay, so justice comes from the word just. So if you're receiving justice, that means you got a just judgment. Okay. So just is moral uprightness, righteousness in the eyes of God. Okay. Which the God of true justice, equity, righteousness is Yahweh. Okay. Let's continue to read. Equitable, fair, impartial in one's dealings. Okay. Impartial in one's dealings, that goes back to the law. Where the law says thou shalt have no respect of persons in judgment. All right. Impartial dealings. Treating all rivals or disputants equally. And that's not what happens in these court systems. All right. Especially here in America when it comes to you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. It says impartial, meaning is treating all rivals or disputants equally, unbiased. And the laws are very biased, all right? Very prejudiced, very racist, because they're in favor of the Edomites, okay, and other nations, and there's no impartiality to benefit you Negroes, but to benefit everybody else except for you Latinos and Native Americans as well. All right. So just is impartial in one's dealings, so you're not biased. The law is used equally across the board. That's not going on when it comes to us, the Israelites. Jake could do petty crime, receive more time for a Edomite that commits a serious offense, steal millions of dollars, get let off. Jake sells weed, which we don't condone, but this is what happens. Sells weed, makes $20 off of it, or 50 or 100, and gets a longer jail sentence. All right, so the system is not just. Jake steal a car or even walk across the street, receive jail time. A Edomite commits the act of murder, okay, receives no jail time. Like in the time of Jim Crow, Jake is so-called out of slavery, but it was more murders, more hangings. All right. And who went to jail out of the Edomites, so-called white people? All right, so-called white race, nationality of people. Nobody. But you had Jake with the 13th Amendment. All right, and it's a term also called. Let's see if I can pull this up. So the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, okay, except as punishments for a crime. So what Edomites did is they found the loophole to put Jake back into slavery by saying that you can't be a slave or involuntary servant except you do a crime. So they would catch Jake on petty crimes. All right, it's very petty crime like jaywalking. Uh, let's see. Let's see. Bear with me. I'm looking for this other word. It's pretty much the same thing as the 13th Amendment. Convict leasing. There you go. All right, let me look up this as well. And 13th Amendment, what year was this? The amendment was passed Senate April 8th, 1864 by the House of Representatives on January 31st, 1865 and ratified by the required 27 of the then 36 states on December 6, 1865 and proclaimed on December 18th. All right, look at this word ratify real quick. Process of giving effect to document in international law. All right. So we're dealing with justice according to the law. All right. So let's go back here. And Jake has no justice within the Constitution. All right. Or the law of America. So convict leasing. All right. Convict leasing. This was 1865 until 1940. So we just read 1885, the 13th Amendment was put in place. 1865. Okay. Same. So it's the same difference. Convict leasing. Pretty much the result of the 13th Amendment. It's the same year. So after the Civil War, slavery persisted in the form of convict leasing. All right. So 13th Amendment is slavery is abolished unless you commit a crime. So let's read. After the Civil War, slavery persisted in the form of convict leasing, a system in which southern states leased prisoners to private railways, mines, large plantations. While states profited, prisoners earned no pay and faced inhumane, dangerous, and often deadly work conditions. Thousands of black people were forced into what authors have termed slavery by another name until 1930. 1930, this was less than 100 years ago. All right, Jake was still going through this hard bondage, which Jake is still under this slavery by another name, because who is receiving who's receiving the majority of the time in prison, and who's filling up the cells in prison so the prison owners can get paid. All right. The Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, are still suffering from petty crimes. Some of them not petty. Most of it's systematic, based off of their environment, because the environment has been created for them to continue to break the law so they could be put back in these jail systems. All right. It's targeted. Okay. We are targeted. All right. Through the music industry and the prison industrial complex, they work together to keep us in that slavery system. So that's a little of what the Southern Kingdom had to go through. All right, and it's still going through. And I have this article right here. This is Amazon rubber cycle. Okay, the Amazon rubber cycle, or boom. Okay, also known as the Amazon rubber boom. It is 1879 to 1912, was an important part of the economic and social history of Brazil. These are the Israelites of the tribe of Asher for the most part. All right. And Asher means happy. Okay, so they are of one of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. All right. It says was an important part of the economic and social history of Brazil and Amazonian regions of neighboring countries, being related to the extraction and commercialization of rubber. Centered in the Amazon basin, the boom resulted in large expansion of European colonization in the area. All right, so these are the Edomites. Okay, so-called European, so-called white people, attracting immigrant workers, generating wealth. Okay, attracting immigrant workers, generating wealth, causing cultural and social transformation. Okay, of those Israelites, those indigenous, and wreaking havoc upon indigenous societies. Okay, wreaking havoc upon the indigenous societies, the Israelites that was in that land, that was raised in that land. Okay, those Edomites, so-called white people, Europeans, they was wreaking havoc upon those societies. It encouraged the growth of cities such as, and it goes on and it talks about the growth of cities, right? Just like the growth of America was built off the back of free slave labor. The rubber boom occurred largely between 1879 and in 1912. There was heightened rubber production and associated activities again from 1942 to 1945 during the Second World War. Okay, effects on the indigenous population. These are the Israelites. Okay, going into where's the justice for our people during the convict lease in the 13th Amendment, which the 13th Amendment brought forth, and this rubber boom, which this just two acts of you Edomites, okay, out of a innumerable amount of wickedness and deceit and oppression that you've put on the Most High's chosen people. Okay, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai chosen people, God and his son's chosen people, however you want to phrase it. The rubber boom and the associated need for a large workforce had a significant negative effect on indigenous population across Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia. As rubber plantations grew, labor shortages increased. The owners of the plantations, or rubber barons, were rich. So the owners were rich, right? But those who collected the rubber made very little, as a large amount of rubber was needed to be profitable. Okay, so let's stop right there and let's get this precept in Amos chapter 9 and verse 11. And it reads, "In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David," okay, "that is fallen." So in the caption above, it says the restoration of Israel. Let's look this word restoration up. Restoration, restitution of all things. Okay? Making all things new. To the restoration of order and harmony in the universe. Okay. Let's look up this word here. Restoration. Excuse me. Restoration, the act of returning something to a former owner, a place, a condition. So Israel is going to be returned back to their former condition, which coming from a line of kings, that's what we're going to turn back to. Kings and priests of the Most High. Okay? And if we're kings and priests, what position would the other heathen nations play? We're going to read. It says in Amos 9:11, in the day that I will raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen and close up the breaches thereof. And this prophecy is happening right now before the world's very eyes for the children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. The Israelites are waking up to who they are as a people and turning back to their power, their God, Yahweh and Yahweh. This is Ezekiel chapter 37 being fulfilled and the dry bones standing upon their feet. So we're coming back to the understanding and the truth. The Most High is raising us up mentally. Okay? So in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David, okay, that is fallen, and we fell. We got destructured. Okay, we lost our heritage. We lost the understanding of the way of our nationality, of our forefathers, okay, of our God. We fell away from who we were as a people, far as knowing that we are the Israelites, knowing who our God is, who delivered us from out of the hand of the Egyptians and from the other nations. We lost all of this. It says, in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen and close up the breaches thereof. And the breaches, closing the breaches thereof, is bringing the children of Israel back together with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Okay? And getting rid of that adversity that the nations had against each other. So, for example, the so-called African Americans, they didn't see eye to eye, or they didn't have that brotherly love for the so-called Mexicans. Okay, so-called Mexicans didn't see eye to eye with the so-called Salvadorians. Okay, the so-called Puerto Ricans, they didn't have that brotherly love for so-called Mexicans, so on and so forth. All right, or the Dominicans, so on and so forth. It says, and close up the breaches thereof. Now you're seeing those that breach is being closed up. That breach was that hate that the tribes have for each other. Now that love is covering that breach. And what is love? Keeping the commandments. Waking up to our nationality, we are learning to treat our brother according to the law. All right? It says, and I will build it as in the days of old. And right now, the kingdom of heaven, which starts with the men of the Lord, are being built back up. All right? It says that they may possess the remnant of Edom, and all the heathen which are called by my name, said Yahweh, that doeth this. All right. So what the Most High is going to do is that He is going to cause the Israelites to possess the Edomites and the heathen. Okay. They're going to possess the Edomites and the heathen, and we're going to take over the world and over Esau land. All right. It's going to be our land. We're going back to our land, and we're taking over Esau land. He don't need his land. All right. It says, behold, the days come, said Yahweh, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. So we read about the rubber boom, and the indigenous became slaves. Right? Let's read that part again. It says, again in the article, the owners of the plantations or rubber barons were rich, but those who collected the rubber were made very little as a large amount of rubber was needed to be profitable. Let's continue to read. The rubber barons round up all the Indians and forced them to tap rubber out the trees. One plantation started with 50,000 Indians, but when discovered, only 8,000 was still alive. So that means you wiped out 42,000 so-called Indians, Israelites. Slavery and systematic brutality will widespread, and in some areas 90% of the Indian population was wiped out. Was there justice for this? You devils, you got a lot to pay for. There wasn't no justice for this. Who received the justice of the scriptures for what they did to the Israelites? Because true justice is in the Bible. It's not in the court system. Let's read the justice in the scriptures. First, let's finish Amos chapter 9 and 13 out. It says, behold, the days come, said Yahweh, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. So the person that was working the rubber and all the other crops that we had to produce and grow shall overtake the reaper, the one that received the benefits, the money, the one that got rich. Okay, these heathen nations, especially you Edomites in these last days. And the treader of grapes him that soweth seed. And the mountain shall drop down sweet wine, and the hills shall melt. Okay. Going into the hills, going into governments. All right. And I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel. Meaning He's going to take Israel out of captivity. And they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. And who's going to be building up the cities? The heathen. All right. And who's going to get credit? The Israelites. And they shall plant vineyards and drink wine thereof. They shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them. And that's in our land. I will plant them upon their land, and they shall no more be pulled up out of their land, which I have given them, said Yahweh thou God. So the plowman shall overtake the reaper and put the reaper in slavery, and the plowman will then be the reaper. So the table's gonna turn. This is Isaiah 14 and 2. The people, well, I started in 1. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the strangers is talking about Israelites coming back to their nationality. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. This is true justice, okay? True justice. Paying back, doing the same thing, okay? What the other person did to you, eye for an eye. Let's read some of these scriptures, okay? Let's see. Numbers 35 and 30. Whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses. But one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. And right now, the prophets are testifying. So Esau is on trial right now, and his acts are being brought up, and he's going to get charged by the Most High, the judge. We read the judgments in the scriptures. All right, let's get another one. Leviticus 24 and 17. He that killeth any man shall surely be put to death. All right. So Esau, you like to murder people, you're gonna get paid back for all of this. Okay, Ezekiel chapter 35, a bunch of scriptures go into this, but I'm gonna end the lesson right here. Call Halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Shalom.